Prayer is the beginning to action. Prayer without works is a dead thing, the Bible says. If there is no action, Ali, we're looking at a manifesto that the police are saying was done by a man who took 20 lives tonight. In the manifesto, it is clear where his mind was and that he represents, in his mind, white nationalism. And the fact that we're allowing these weapons to still be accessible, even in a state, a carry state, which shows they have no fear that if somebody at the mall was carrying, they'd be shot down. They have no fear. They have no kind of remorse at all for what they're doing. And there's no tone being set at the leadership, by the leadership of this country, the president and those that lead in the legislative branch. If there's not an emergency that we've seen, I don't know what it is. 20 innocent people dead shopping for school for their children. And he's telling us why he did it in the manifesto. If the police connection is right, when do we stop and say, wait a minute, the president and others need to come forward and say, we're going after domestic terrorists. We're going after people that are using white nationalism to justify some action that they're purifying America for whites. When do we stand up and change the climate? If tonight is not the night, then I think that we're in for a sad chapter. He's predicting it's going to get worse. And what is any way, shape, or form are we behaving like we're going to stop it from getting worse? They're fighting against no kind of even proclamation, less known action from the government. And that's what's scary and frightening.